Expensive knives can be sick, but let's be honest, a lot of them aren't great value, and it can be hard to justify such a high price. So today, instead of just looking at the most popular knives in CS2, I'm going to share the best value knives at every budget, starting at under $100 and moving up in tiers all the way to $2,000, so you can build a unique loadout without breaking the bank. Let's start with our entry-level knives under $100. We're mostly dealing with weaker knife models here, but a couple still stand out. First up is the Paracord Knife Vanilla, starting at around $57. No floats to worry about, but you can still get a clean knife model with unique animations at one of the cheapest prices possible. For $69, you can pick up the Bowie knife freehand in Field Tested. The Bowie punches above its weight due to its big blade, and the freehand pattern doesn't have many visible scratches, especially if you can pick one up with a low float around 0.2. Then there's the Falchion Black Laminate, around $70 in Field Tested. A unique set of animations, and quite unique with the wooden handle. Plus, most black laminates only become slightly darker as float increases, so you won't have any large obvious scratches in the pattern. The Shadow Daggers Tiger Tooth are a great option for just $86. You're not buying these for blade size, but because the animations are just a bit of fun, especially the unique double punch, and you can rename them butt plugs. Plus, this yellow really pops. This video's sponsor, Skin Swap, is giving you a skin worth up to $50 entirely for free whenever you do your first trade and use my referral code. If you want to refresh your loadout, you can trade your skins for brand new ones in just a couple of seconds. Plus, their market tab now integrates cheap listings from Chinese sites so you can access the best prices without the need for a Chinese ID or bank account. They accept deposits via crypto, MasterCard, and Visa. If you want to cash out, SkinSwap makes that simple too with instant sell options to PayPal or crypto. On top of that, they run free daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways with the chance to earn extra entries simply by trading. Use the link below for a 3% lifetime sales bonus and a free skin worth up to $50. Big thanks to SkinSwap for supporting the channel. Next, we've got the Cuckoo Knife Night Stripe with minimal wear coming in at just over $80. I kind of think of it as a hybrid M9. It's got a big blade and has a pretty crazy pull-out animation at one of the cheapest price points in the game. The Night Stripe in minwear offers a clean paint finish and goes well with the default gloves. Then probably my favorite option under $100 is the Classic Knife Urban Mast, selling for roughly $90 depending on the float. You get a proper animation set, the slap inspect, multiple inspect variations, and even the rear pull-out. You will need to check the float and pattern seed here, as two classic knives at the same price can look completely different, and I actually think the higher field tested floats look cleaner here, as you can see in this comparison. Moving up, we now have some of the more desirable finishes available. One thing to keep in mind with CS2 knives in general is the model often matters more than the finish. That means that even with a horrible finish, a butterfly or M9 will almost always cost more than a nomad or survival knife with a premium finish. So at this price range, we can start to see some strong finishes like the Marble Fade, for example, featured on the gut knife in factory new for just $121. If you can find a Fire and Ice pattern, which will give a clean blue and red split on the play side and a blue and yellow split on the back, that would be a steal at this price. And there's a ton of patterns that look good here, even outside the top tiers. If you prefer the original fade finish, the Survival Knife Fade at around $145 factory new is one of the best entry points. A really unique knife model and full animation set. Plus, high fade percentages only add a small premium, so you can get that sweet purple 98% plus fade for not much more. Now, not all knives actually wear the same as float increases, and in fact there's some skins that you probably couldn't even tell the difference, such as this Nomad Knife Ultraviolent in minimal wear. Because of its 0.06 float cap, factory new is extremely rare and hence quite pricey, but its minimal wear counterpart is extremely clean and would fit perfectly into a purple or black loadout. Next up, let's get into some Dopplers. The Gut Knife Gamma Doppler Phase 1 sits around $170 in factory new. Some patterns lean quite heavily blue, such as this Diamond Gem pattern 139. If that's what you're after, but most look fantastic without trying to find a rare pattern. And finally, we've got the Flip Knife Autotronic, going for just $163 in Field Tested. The red really pops, and the steel actually matches the color of the default Agent gloves extremely well. Let's move past the $200 mark, and this is where things start to open up a lot. You're getting better finishes, better models, and knives that really start to feel a bit more premium. And we're starting off with the Cuckoo Knife Fade at $201. You're getting a top tier finish on a pretty fun new knife model. And because of the blade size, you actually get a lot of fade on the screen. For just a little more at $212, you could pick up a Stiletto Knife Blue Steel. Very clean with that almost mafia style look. It's slim, quick, and kind of feels like a toothpick in the hand. And yeah, it's not always about size.
What do you mean by that?
The Paracord Doppler Phase 1 at $215 is a real sleeper. Another clean, long blade and blue heavy patterns can look surprisingly close to sapphires depending on the lighting. Alternatively, lean more into the purple shades if you're running a purple themed loadout like me. From there, the Huntsman Gamma Doppler Phase 1 for around $231 in factory new offers a much more eye-catching finish on a big blade. As a bonus, it pairs really well with many budget gloves like hand wrap overprints or specialist glove moguls. And if you are keen to see some of our best knife and glove combos, check out this video next, where we share some real banger combinations for every budget. Finally, a big budget flex, the Bowie knife Doppler in Phase 1 for roughly $260. The huge blade really fills the screen.
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
At the $300 to $400 range, we start to get into some knives that feel like proper upgrades. The Bayonet Slaughter in minimal wear goes for about $330. You get a very clean red-white contrast against the handle. Factory new is always possible and will have less scratches around the edges, but I find min wear is usually the value sweet spot. Then you've got the M9 Bayonet Knight in field tested. This is one of the cheapest entry points for the M9, one of the most popular knives in the entire game. Some low float field tested look very similar to minimal wear and will once again match the default gloves if you aren't looking to pick up a combo. This next knife is genuinely one of my favorites in the entire game regardless of price. The factory new Skeleton Tiger Tooth. Factory new is standard here because of the float cap. The finish is super clean and it really pops under certain lighting. But let's be honest, this knife is all about the animations. It spins like a Beyblade and feels amazing in-game. This will always be popular. And if you're wondering where I'm finding all these great prices, be sure to check out SkinSwap via the link in the description. They've got some of the cheapest prices on the market for all of the knives we're discussing today. The flip knife Gamma Dopplers sit around the low $400 mark, and Phase 4s are interesting in particular, with some patterns like number 660 being predominantly lime green with very little cyan, offering that smooth, almost ocean-like look. And because it's not the most liquid knife, you can sometimes find sellers offering these patterns without much overpay. If you're keen to get in on a Karambit, the Forest DD-Pat in minimal wear starts at $442. It's not a perfect finish, but it holds up better in minimal wear than most expect, especially with the right gloves, and is a great entry point to another S-tier knife. Just look at that pull-out animation. And then we'll finish off this tier with the Stiletto Knife Doppler Phase 3 coming in at $461. A great knife with a Doppler finish under $500. That's a bargain, honestly, and I've always loved these stiletto animations throwing the knife around. A nice shiny toothpick with a good mix of purple and blue on all the common patterns. Surpassing the $500 threshold, we can get into some proper high tier finishes, and our first real gems. The Bayonet Doppler Phase 2 at $515 is a great example of how this starts to scale. The larger blades mean you see more of that beautiful pink Doppler finish, and the knife itself is just more premium compared to the survival or flip knife, for instance. At this price point, we can now also see one of our first gems, the survival knife Ruby in factory new, sells for $570. And I personally find that all those cloudy dark streaks add depth and an almost aggressive nature to it. Absolutely beautiful blade. Similar situation for the Foucher Knife Emerald at $565. A pretty unique knife that is actually growing on me lately. It has several unique animations, including this right click throw and juggling act. And the Doppler finish extends the entire way down onto the handle. The Fire and Ice look returns for our next knife, the Talon Marble Fade, which is one of the cheaper entry points to the Marble Fade family. Those will require a bit of overpay, or you can go for a common pattern around the $580 mark. If you've made it this far, I've got something for you. I'm giving away a pair of field-tested driver glove hand sweaters to one of you this month. To enter, just like the video and leave a comment on which CS2 skin you think is the most overrated. I'll be picking the winner on May 31st. Good luck. If you're willing to spend more than $600 on a knife, your options open up quite significantly. You're not only buying for value, but into skins people actually want long term. Let's start with the Butterfly Knife Freehand. A low float field tested around $610 honestly looks very similar to factory new, so you can save a lot with very little visible difference. Next up, the Stiletto Doppler Phase 2 is a very strong alternative for basically the same price. Phase 2 is the most popular Doppler phase, excluding the gems of course, and the pink and purple balance is extremely versatile for a number of glove combinations. For an extra $100, you could upgrade to a Skeleton Knife Doppler Phase 4. It's definitely worth having a look through the patterns here, as some offer a lot richer blue, which can give it that fake sapphire look without the full gem price tag. Right now, it's only available in the Fever case, so it will be interesting to see how supply changes with time. And man, I do love these skeleton animations. The Karambit Black Laminate is quite unique, as it features a carved wooden handle that is exclusive to this finish. All the other Karambits share the rubber one. At $682 field tested, this is a versatile knife that will fit into many loadouts. If you want to stay on the clean looks, the Butterfly Damascus Steel is a bit more expensive than the Freehand, but is another great entry point to the Butterfly at $786 in minimal wear. For the Damascus Steel, I find the field tested or min wear conditions tend to offer the best value. They still keep the blade fairly bright, but bring the price down. If you want a classic knife, the M9 Crimson Web in minimal wear currently sells for $850. Kind of a benchmark knife for the price tag. It doesn't have fancy animations, but it doesn't need them. It's iconic and not overstated, and the cheapest of the big three knives alongside the Karambit and Butterfly. Staying under $1,000 for these next few, we have the Talon Knife Fade factory new. While the cheapest listings sit around $840, you can actually find high percentage fades above 95% around that $930 mark for that full orange to purple gradient that really brings the knife to life. I even found some 97% fades for around $950. The Karambit Tiger Tooth is an iconic Counter-Strike knife and one of my favorite finishers, as I mentioned earlier. The Karambit is the most used knife in professional play, and this is an absolute banger finish for only $897. Finally, coming in at $997, and yes, we're cutting it extremely close to the threshold, we've got the M9 Bayonet Doppler Phase 3. This is usually the cheapest Doppler phase, but it looks absolutely amazing and was actually my dream knife about 10 years ago. These are all great options at this price. Moving into the 4 digits, you can really find something that fits into an overall loadout and isn't just budget conscious. If you're spending this amount, I would definitely also consider how you're building the inventory around the knife, and maybe use a tool like CS2's Loadout Builder to start putting it all together. But our first recommendation here is the Karambit Marble Fade in factory new. Just about any random pattern looks great here, and it works really well with amphibious, fade, and marble fade gloves in particular. For $1,084, this is a really beautiful knife. If you want to keep the Karambit but go for something a little different, the factory new Karambit Lore comes in at just under $1,250. The intricate detailing on the blade is quite unique, and it's got a royal rich green handle offering up some beautiful combo options. Then you've got the M9 Bayonet Gamma Doppler Phase 1 at around $1,290. The Phase 1s are the most desirable Gamma Doppler phase, as you get that strong green and blue mix on a big blade here. You can also get the diamond tip for a bit of extra swag. S tier all around. If you want to go for a gem though, the Nomad Knife Ruby comes in at a very similar price. The finish is really bright, and paired with something like Nox, it just pops. On top of that, the Nomad animations are actually solid, and this is a great value gem pickup. As an alternative, the Nomad Black Pearl is actually just a couple of dollars more. I personally have a huge love for black pearls, and I think they may just be my favorite gem in the game. Not only do I run a purple CT loadout, but I also got extremely lucky and unboxed a butterfly knife Black Pearl last year. Yes, I sold it before the crash, but at $1,308, this is great value. A minimal wear butterfly knife slaughter comes from a bit of a different angle. You're getting one of the most desirable finishes on one of the most popular knives, without going into gem pricing. It works really well as a cheaper red alternative, especially with gloves like snow leopards or slingshots. It's just one of those knives that always looks good. Up next is the Karambit Doppler Phase 4. This is where you start getting into those max blue, almost fake sapphire patterns around the $1,450 mark. That's where the value is. Same finish, but completely different look depending on what you land. It pairs really nicely with gloves like the amphibious or the new cloud chasers, so again, super easy to build a color themed loadout around. At this point, we're nearing endgame territory, so it's kind of less about value and just picking your favorite knives. However, there are a few that stand out to me in particular. First off, the Skeleton Sapphire comes in at about $1,630. This is a beautiful pickup, and like the Karambit Doppler we just spoke about, hit so hard with those cloud chasers. At just a few dollars more, you can now reach for the M9 Gamma Doppler Phase 2 for that fake emerald look. I know I've mentioned the M9 Bayonet quite a bit in this video, but just look at that thing. One of my favorite knives in the game for sure, and this is actually down from about $5,000 at its peak in August last year. However, if you want to go for a real emerald, the Bayonet Emerald is going for $1,780 and is one of the best value S tier gems in the game. You get a big clean blade that actually shows the emerald finish properly, and the pull-out animation is a favorite for many. And if you compare it to its M9 counterpart, sitting at over $7,500, it starts to look quite reasonable. For another gem option, the Bayonet Black Pearl is currently going for $1,985, or you can even get in with a Stiletto Black Pearl at $2,100. These are such rare knives, so be prepared to get bombarded with questions about them every Premier game you play. Finally, let's finish the video with the iconic Karambit Fade. Factory new is now selling for as little as $1,930, and you get one of the cleanest finishes on one of the most popular knives to exist. Pasha Biceps rocked his legendary Moto 2K Karambit Fade for years, and actually just recently sold it at auction to donate funds to charity. This is a symbolic knife, and at a high fade percentage is one of the best, hands down. If you want to see some of the best and most unique knife glove combos, then be sure to check out one of these videos next. I hope you enjoyed our picks, and if I missed any, be sure to let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.